just want to say one thing first. People were lying about Ice Cube. Plies was lying about Ice Cube. And the reason why is I think the woman that came out and said that the platinum plan, Trump's platinum plan, which in this world is just another aspect of what's wrong with 2020. I mean, damn. Like that insane. I mean, just so much insanity this year. Like I thought 2019 was crazy, but yeah, because didn't she came out, Paula White. Well, I'm not even talking about Paula White. I don't remember what this woman's name was who said that Ice Cube was working with Trump, and they didn't fact check it. Like Trump's supposed to be a liar, which he is, but they just automatically ran with that. And I've heard people say that Ice Cube, no, Ice Cube did not make a deal with Trump. Ice Cube made a deal with Biden. Biden said he would look at the shit after the election. It's after the election. That's a gentleman's deal. There was really no dealing with, like, he explained the plan to him. That is his employee. He's supposed to do that. Donald Trump at the time was working for him and doing a shitty job. So it's like, man, we need this. And a person who continued to do a shitty job took that and created something in the platinum plan that was so different. Had these people who were criticizing Ice Cube done their homework, they'd have known that they weren't really working together to produce something that different. But instead, they ran with that. And I was bothered by that because the messaging was so cold. I had like some of the smarter people in my family who was believing that shit. I had some people that don't really pay too much attention. They like, hey man, did Ice Cube, is he working with Trump, man? And, I just heard. And I'm like, people who pay attention, people who don't pay attention much, just went along with bullshit. They had floated so well. And now maybe I'm not as surprised because, I called out this election. I said that Trump needed the black vote worse than Biden, or he's going to lose because of COVID. I said that COVID was messing up Trump before the Woodward tapes, which after the Woodward tapes, that exposed just how sheeple the goddamn Trump supporters are. You will never see anybody with less evidence just running their mouth on some, but white daddy said so, than the Trump Sambo. Because, I mean, at least I thought. But, man, this breed of Sambo that I'm seeing now for the Democrats, y'all need to rein you need to rein back. That, I'll get to you in a second. But let me go back to the Woodward tapes, because this really did expose just how stupid MAGA is. Because I did that one video where I was calling MAGA a cult, and I was laying things out. You can disagree, but you can't say I'm not laying out evidence. I can say you're not, because y'all some no evidence having people. Talking about some dead people voted. I mean, that's worse than Russian robots. That is worse. Russian robots, you can kind of like do a program and you don't really have to have a robotic body. And, people do use that. That exists. Vampires and shit don't exist. Motherfuckers, dead people are not voting. You're like, well, that's not what we mean. Then why is it you're saying this and a whole bunch of other things and you ain't got no evidence? And when you do show some evidence, it's not really what's happening, like with young Pharaoh and that the people throwing out the ballots. But and let me go back to Woodward. What was said in that? Because that other video didn't even mention that. I was just calling out the lack of strategy and how he was, and just conservatives in general were being dishonest about what was really causing the American depression, really the global depression. But I wasn't calling it out because I mean, I didn't. I don't think I mentioned the Woodward tapes. I think that came out later. And really, I think that more than anything cost Trump the election. I thought he was in trouble before that, but it was closer than I expected. So I would say that was the difference. That and the black vote, which I'll get to. Because in the Woodward tapes, he understood COVID, what it could do to a T. How many people it was likely to kill, how it compared to the worst flus. He understood that. Chose to downplay it, and then chose to build his policy off the downplay. While his followers, his coons, were selling the downplay. Talking about this ain't really that serious. We can go back to business. And the more we go back to business, the worse it gets. To the point where him and his staff gets it. Ben Carson has it now. So what are we really talking about? Why were you lying for him? And then when you found out he was lying, why did you keep Samboing for him? So at that point, even though I voted green, I'm looking at the Trump Sambo as just being an irredeemable loser, an idiot. You know, and I'm not talking about a protest voter. I'm talking about the people who are actively right now arguing that the goddamn Supreme Court is going to put them back in the White House. And you haven't showed any evidence. When you do show something, it's not evidence. This is a level of Sambo that I thought would not be surpassed so soon, but out of nowhere. Look, I knew that black people would come out in relatively high percentages for Biden. I didn't think that the black vote would be that suppressed by ADOS and FBA. It was stronger than I expected, but I don't really even know the totals because I don't know like the numbers for people who didn't vote at all. And they don't really sample a large amount of people. They'll sample like 4% of black voters and just build off that. And a lot of times that sample doesn't include mail-in. I don't know how they could sample mail-in. So they wouldn't have included me. So I don't know. I mean, the people that walk in, especially now, those are the people that I think are a little bit truer to the Democratic Party. So I can't really talk about it with any data yet, at least. But I can say I've seen an unexpected uptick in Biden and Kamala Harris Sambos. And it's not necessary. Even if you held your nose and voted for them, I'm not really going to argue. Because that I'm white and I said so COVID strategy is not good for this country. Like, it's hard to really focus on stuff when not only has everything changed, you have someone who's trying to make it worse and worse and worse. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. You know, if I thought it was getting better, I don't know if I would have voted. Like, I mean, it took a lot for me to vote for Trump, even as a protest vote. But regardless, I'm not going to then turn around and Sambo for whoever. Like, if I would have voted for Biden because I thought he had a good COVID strategy, I think he has one, which is better than nothing, or better than one that's detrimental. But I don't think it's good. If he had a good strategy, I'd have voted for him. Even with his janky lift every nutsack plan. Lift every nutsack and sniff. But I don't understand. And have any of y'all seen that? I can't believe that this goes viral. This Mount Huckledoe wannabe Mount Rushmore. Maxine Waters, Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, and Stacey Abrams. I think her last name is Abrams. I mean, really, y'all need ADOS. Y'all need you need Yvette Carnell, because even if you voted for them, for Biden and Harris at the top of the ballot, even if you did that, you do not treat them like you work for them. They work for you, fool. You Sambo like you just like you work for them. And will question people for not supporting them. Why would I support them? Their job is to elevate me. And they're not doing it. They haven't done it. They've been detrimental. Maxine Waters hasn't done anything since the 90s. Her neighborhoods are gentrified. She fights for immigration more than she fights for black power. And if you don't go along with that, she'll shame you. That's worthlessness. That's not working for you. You should have fired her a long time ago. Not put her on a goddamn mountain like she's something to look at and celebrate. They haven't done anything while the wealth gap is expanded. So if you're going to judge them, they're losing badly. Kamala Harris goes from being any old racist conservative DA to a progressive senator. And the only thing that makes her progressive is the goddamn Senate is so damn conservative. And she just votes with the Democrats a lot. She doesn't move to the left of them enough. And arguably, she doesn't move to the right of them enough, too. You know, at least as a form of protest for a few issues here and there. But for the most part, I'm okay with her being a progressive senator. That's good. And the thing that she did that I like the most is she was, I think, the second co-sponsor for, was it S-1083, Senate reparations bill? But who would ever know? Now, I think one thing that's cool in this terrible year is the Republicans would rather get on her and say she's a socialist, which she's not. They'd rather run that BS than say, and she supports reparations for the Negro. They aren't trying to play the racism shit, but she's not trying to play it in, that's probably a good thing, because she can't articulate it. She would be a poison pill to reparations. So you've elevated someone who comes in with I think, incapable to do the job you need. I mean, at least when it comes to vocalizing it herself. The only thing Kamala Harris can do is get a press secretary who can do it. And man, we'll see. We will see. I'm not expecting anything, but the thing is, with all you people Samboing for them like that, that means they don't have to live up to anything. If y'all would have voted them in and said, you know what, we don't like you. We don't think you're capable of doing this. And if you don't do this, we got to get rid of you. We just voted for you because this dude can't handle the goddamn pandemic. So handle the pandemic. Work on what we need you to, and then we'll see later on. But we don't really trust you. We want to replace you because y'all need Yvette Carnell. I mean, when she says, and she says it more than once, politicians respond to pressure, not praise. I don't get sick of her hearing that because I know people need to hear it. I know this. I might not have even known it spoken like that in my head, but once it's heard, it's like, yeah, of course. But when you are Samboing for your employee, you don't know that. And then the worst people are the ones fighting me over Michelle Obama. And I don't even have a problem with Michelle Obama. I have one issue with Michelle Obama. I thought she was good for being like it's a respectability politics position. And I thought she was good at that. I have one issue. Don't come to me telling me who to vote for when you can't check your husband, who has the same policy on reparations as Mitch McConnell. It's like Lil Jon said in that song, Don't Fuck With Me. Check your bitch before you come and check me, Michelle. You have nothing to tell me until you check your bitch. And Stacey Abrams, I only got one issue with Stacey Abrams. How do you endorse Warnock over Shealy? And not get Warnock on code a long time ago. They asked this fool about reparations, and he put up some goddamn Wonder Woman bracers and started deflecting. He's like, I'm going to study it. And then he went on talking about how, but you know what? We can be all inclusive and get some health care. He went from study it to health care. That is unacceptable. You don't give an endorsement to that when you got a staunch reparationist. That makes you look bad, Abrams. And it makes you look bad for Samboing. That goddamn, you should want to throw the picture of that shit, burn it up. I might have to mess with that. Huckledoe Mountain. You'll never be able to climb it because the platitudes are too high. It's owned by the Democratic National Committee. People are calling it Mount Black Power. Like, what? What power does it produce? Man, I feel Paula White produced more power when she summoned them African angels. The South American angels couldn't even get here. You had the wall. She summoned them African angels. They was like, you know what? Let's get Trump out of the box. And I think maybe they probably be surprised to shoot Sambos too. And in that picture with Kamala and Ruby Bridges, the nerve of you. This woman was 16th place. 16th place. She was selected and promoted. She didn't overcome anything. I said I don't believe in the term Caucasian, but it's a big difference from somebody who has Caucasian on the birth certificate and somebody who has Negro. She is not a Caucasian, but they were trying to do something with Indians that they weren't trying to do with Negroes. With or without being a quarter African. So I'm a little pissed off about that. That is so disrespectful. Whoever did that picture. I know who did it, to be honest. I'm not going to say her name, though. I'm not going to promote that. I'm going to menace it. Because I didn't elect these motherfuckers. I had two choices, both bad. So what I did is I said, you know what? I'd rather go with none of them because I'm surrounded by idiots who would rather choose Trump and fucking Biden over the Green Party. And really the libertarians got more votes than that. kill government got more votes than smart government. And I kind of see why. Because if this is what you have at the top, kill it. Right now, we'd be better off in just some form of free-for-all. But it's Sambos on both sides. And I haven't even gotten too deep in, I mean, the stuff that's coming out, the accusations of election fraud. I'm really amazed that they don't have at least some janky little websites and video evidence. I'm like, damn, it ain't. At this point, I'm thinking it was a clean fucking election because y'all don't have anything. So it's a spotless election. We need to just keep doing the same shit. Otherwise, I'd have seen something. Trump's cases keep getting thrown out local. And how you going to get to the Supreme Court if that's the case? You can't trail the chimpanzee nothing. So I'm surrounded by people who aren't good at what they do when it comes to putting competent people in roles to deal with the land's issues, the people's issues. So you get what you get, all right? Why would I all of a sudden go to my employee and like, oh, you're a prized employee. I'm loving you, man. You have my full support. You can do it. You've done a great job, and I know you're going to continue to do an even better job. I have some new directives. This is what I need you to do. Why would I take that attitude when they haven't done anything? And now I'm seeing people, this is a new level of Sambo, that will defend Kamala Harris by talking about how they did the crime, so they got to do the crime. They start sounding like any old white supremacist. Now who's a Russian robot? You sounding just like a goddamn, and I've seen this before with some of the Clinton people. Well, and the black men did the crime. Well, you know who else did the crime? Biden's son. And did he do the time? No. Steve Mnuchin. I think they had more than 1,000 violations coming from Mnuchin. Didn't do the time. Kamala didn't prosecute one dirty cop, but you want to tell me about police brutality? So, terrible job. Biden, really, he's to me, he's just he's just an extension of Nixon when it comes to the crime bill. But when he had actually, I think about an extension of Nixon. When it came to the crime bill, Biden was worse than the Republicans. But he apologized, 42. Why are you so harsh? That apology has to come with reparations or, look, because then I can say, okay, you did that. You also said that you had no responsibility for the sins and whatever, I don't even know how he worded it, of your ancestors. But you were like 10 years away from, less than 10 years away from Jim Crow when you said that. Or no, a little bit more than 10 years. I think this was 77. Jim Crow ended in, I think it was 66. But you lived through Jim Crow. So what are you talking about, your ancestors? Because if you'd have been fighting against Jim Crow, and you would have been fighting for reparations in the 60s. Because you would have looked at it, the problem with Jim Crow was not segregation. It was that it was one-sided. White people could do what they want. They could go to black neighborhoods. They could go to black discos. Well, it wasn't before discos. They could go to black doo-wops or whatever. I don't know what they had like, that's when funk was starting to kick up. So they could go groove with black people all throughout the 50s, 40s, 30s. They could 20s. They could do what they wanted with black people. Black people go to their neighborhoods and they can't even use a bathroom. And if they do break the law, they'll get chased by dogs. People have gotten lynched. You would have been fighting for reparations. You were fighting against reparations, Biden. You were fighting with segregationists. You are part of the problem. You've been part of the problem. And the little bit you did with Obama was undoing a sliver of the problem, a sliver of the abuse, not of your ancestors, of you. Because the thing that they did was they did the old cocaine crack thing. That came from him. And he admitted it. So he undid his own flaws. He didn't fix anything from his ancestors. You are your ancestors. You are a continuation of the conveyor belt of human rights violations. And so is Kamala Harris. Sambo not for that. Why are you looking for somebody to Sambo for? I swear, every time I see that goddamn mountain or that picture with Ruby Bridges, I'm going to have something to say. That is horrible that you would do that shit. Like Stacey Abrams, that's a big flaw. I don't know how you can do that endorsement and leave that fool like that. Because she gets like, I've seen where she got $5 million from Bloomberg. You know, if you're that promoted by the establishment, you've got a bridge. You got to be at the ADOS conference. You've got a bridge. You've got to be part of that movement. You can't promote somebody who's going to deflect on reparations like that. You have too much influence. You can get them in office. Plus, you have leverage with Sheely. Excuse me. You had some leverage because you could have said, hey, I can, put my resources behind her, knowing she's probably not going to win because people don't really know about her. She's just hitting that big of a scene, you know? A lot of times it's just name, and she still got over 200,000 votes in a big field. You know, it's interesting that you have that little low-key ADOS conflict involving her. I don't know what's up with that. Since I don't know, I'm not going to say anything. I think that's silly, though. I mean, that is the first thing where I'm like, oh, I've thought Yvette is a little petty. You know, I don't think she's a pettyweight champion, Tariq Nasheed, but I've always thought she was a little pettier than I am. Not to say I know the details. I might agree with her if I knew the details. I might be like, oh, okay, whatever. You know. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this probably should have been managed better. This don't really make sense. When I heard her on BTP, she sound too much like Yvette for somebody to call in and ask Yvette who they voting for Senate and her not say Sheely. Like whatever this conflict is, it's I think it's bigger than what I had imagined for her to not just say Sheely. You know, it's and I don't get it. I have a suspicion, but I don't know. But I'm gonna say this. Whatever it was I know if Sandy Darity's involved in it, I don't even know about that. But whatever it was, seems like a lost opportunity to me. It seems like you had someone that you could put a little bit of pressure on Abrams with. You know, because truth be told, I don't want to call that mountain Mount Huckleberry. I want to at least look at somebody and like, oh, okay, they're doing something. But no, they're not. And the reason why I can tell is because just like the Trump pansy dude Samboing for Trump, they don't have no evidence. You know, about the the Democratic and Republican Sambo is the no evidence having motherfucker I've ever seen. They're the same person with no evidence. Ask anybody, like, what did Barack Obama really do that moved the needle for black power? And they can't say anything because it didn't move. The only thing you can say is that the lack of action gave people an education. But I guess it wasn't that much because I'm seeing y'all Samboing for and it's not that many people. It's just a swelling because it wasn't going like this on like on the news, social media. Because I mean, if you look at the regular news, they got this fool Van Jones trending. This is the fourth time he's just broke out in tears. For what? He don't have no evidence either. I mean, this whole thing was because first he was crying like, "What am we gonna tell the children with Donald Trump?" But like he'll start off like kind of and just get emotional. I'm like, dude, if you know you're that emotional, get it out of your system before. Cry it out before you go on TV. You know, talking about the. I don't remember it that well. It's just something about how it shows that integrity and character matters. And then I mean, the one time I kind of get when he cried was when Prince died. You could do a cry compilation of Van Jones, but even then, I don't see, like, I was a big fan of Michael Jackson. A lot of my favorite people have died. Like the Celtics, going back to Reggie Lewis. Or what was his name? Reggie Lewis? Yeah. Yeah, the basketball player, man. I was a big fan of him. I loved how he could get his points in the phone booth. He would just sit down somewhere in mid-range, do a little this, do a little that, hit, do this, that, hit. And I would not be tearing up because that's how, get to talking about Purple Rain. After the things that he said about people in the Latino community, like there's this one Latino, what can I tell my children? Like religiously, bruh. Yvette cracked me up with a tweet talking about why do we have to always bear witness to him working out his emotional issues. Like, leave Bad Jones alone when something big happens. Let him work that out first. Because I'm an emotional person and I know it. So I would just, if I really thought I would swell up and get to tearing, I would just get it out beforehand. Because I like being still. STE, yeah, 2EEL, 2 E's. Not STILL. I like being still. I like being hard. Maybe it's the testosterone in me, toxic masculinity. And get off on it. I like being the person. And I'll be honest, I am a very emotional person. I could be an actor because I can make myself cry. I can think of uh children who've had their parents killed before their eyes, and I could start crying right now if I felt like it. But I like being still. I like being able to cut a motherfucker up. I like being a sword, a dagger. But that's what we've gotten, man. That's what we got. That's what we got from the mainstream media is adoration, adoration. The goddamn BLM sends a one-page letter asking Biden to deal with racism, doesn't mention reparations. And I can drive around and see all these BLM signs in people's front yard. And it bothers my son. He's like, why do we have to have these signs here, Dad? Like, I didn't expect this growing up. And like, he knows they mean well. He knows these white folks are basically saying, yo, we don't like what's happening. We're going to do what we can. But when their only options are Biden and Kamala and you're Samboing for them, all of that is wasted because what can they do anything for? When BLM sends a letter to them saying that they want them to deal with racism, it doesn't mention reparations. Like this 400-year human rights violation treadmill. I like conveyor belt. That predates America. And the problem is they do not have a understanding of what power is. That's got to be it to me. For you to call that Mount Black Power, and it was an elder lady too, that means you spent your whole life living in illusion. Sad. Dude, man, I can't even say it. I think right now, and this is sad to say, but we got to go hard, and we're probably still a half a generation away. We can't be still, but we got to be still. This is sad and a little bit unpredictable. Like I predicted the election. One thing that I didn't get was I did not expect it to be so blatant, like with the exception of Arizona. And from what I heard, Arizona might flip back to Trump. But with the exception of Arizona, like even Wisconsin, there's hardly any black people in Wisconsin, but still 30% in Milwaukee, and Milwaukee made the difference in Wisconsin. Black people made the difference in Michigan and Georgia. I didn't even expect Biden to win Georgia. I thought he would win Michigan and Pennsylvania harder. I mean, that's why I'm saying I don't expect if they do a recount for anything to change. If they do an audit, I think it would be worse for Trump. Because the difference between the Sambo for Biden and the Sambo for Trump is the shit that Trump's done is fresh and obvious. If you don't pay attention to politics, you might not know about Kamala's record as a prosecutor. You might not know about Biden's record in the Senate. I think it was in the Senate. Yeah. You I'm not like that versed on it, but I'm not oblivious. So you have people who are oblivious and they just okay with who Kamala Harris is based on nothing. A somewhat progressive record in a very conservative body of Congress. Signing a bill that she doesn't really endorse. Because she talks about hip hop more than she does reparations. And don't even really listen to hip hop. So she's just bullshitting. I mean, when does that work in a job interview? You just start bullshitting about stuff you don't know anything about. Well, when you're running against a liar, a costly liar. Like Trump is bad business walking. So yeah. Okay, so the hiring people decided that it was a good idea to not look further at other candidates. We got to stick with this two-party shit. And I get that. That's why I say take over the Democratic Party and a little bit of the Republican Party to have some influence. Don't create a new party because people are too jaded and janky and, a new party, if you're going to create it, understand what you're doing it for, and that's just to create a counter. No, stay here, Democrat. We'll do this. That's all. It really is saber rattling. But I'm done. I've gone too long. No, I've gone for 42 minutes. It's perfect.